We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was recorded, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present. This episode contains discussion of suicide. If this raises any issues for you, support is available through the links and phone numbers in the show notes.
It's 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon in March, and Blakey Johnston is just coming out of the surf on Cronulla Beach. It's his local beach, and he's gotten out at this very spot countless times before. But this isn't just any pre-weekend surf session. Blakey started this session at 1 a.m. on Thursday and has been surfing for the past 40 hours, catching over 700 waves. He's put his body on the line against sleep deprivation, dehydration, hypothermia, blindness, and of course, shark attacks. But the risks aren't important to Blakey right now. It's the memory of his dad, who he lost to suicide 10 years ago, that's driven him on. Blakey is now the record holder of the world's longest surf session and has raised over $400,000. I'm at Middleton, and this is Head Game. Today, how Blakey Johnston pushes himself to his limits, just to prove he can survive. Blakey, thank you for coming on Head Game. Talk me through sort of like your younger days and how you got into surfing, and did you go to school much, and how you were attracted to the water, so often.
Yeah, look, first memory of my dad and of pretty much the first memory I ever have is my standing on the beach at the alley and looking out to the waves and being a little bit nervous, and then looking to the left and having my dad there with flippers on and him taking me out and riding waves all the way through into the shore. So it's been embedded in me from a super young age. And then fond memories are like chasing my brothers over the hill to surf, putting the board on my head, and we live close to the beach. So just an amazing lifestyle, just active and burning my energy. I've always had a lot of energy. Mum even says, she's like, I took you to the paediatrician twice just to make sure he's got a lot of energy. Is he okay? No, you just need to put him in sport. You need to put him around kids his own age and let him be him. Yeah, I think that's hugely important. I was the same. My energy was off the scale, but you were lucky enough to live by the beach, right? So you could just go out. Did you finish school, grab your board and go out swimming? That's it, mate. When I was young, I'd just sit there and wait for Dad to get home from work.
Right, okay.
And it was like 33 years ago or something now, so there wasn't a lot of little tiny kids surfing like there is these days. Mm-hmm. So it was a big deal for Mum and Dad to let this little, I was pretty small for my age, this little white-headed happy grom just trot over the hill. I just chased my brothers over the hill. I can remember when Dad said I was allowed to go on my own. That was an amazing moment. Came home from work one day and I was sitting there sweating in my wetsuit, and he gets home exhausted from work. He was a bricklayer and then a builder. And then my mum came out at the same time and he's like, "What do you reckon, Wayne? Can Blake go on his own now?" And he looked at me with a big smile and said, I think he was relieved he finally didn't have to go over the hill because he was so cooked. Because he never said no, right? He was the best dad ever. He's never let us down ever, no matter any part of my life. He was there every afternoon, no matter how, I know now how tired he would have been, how much he worked. So the relief for him too, just to go, go find your brothers and just put the board on the head and never look back. So it was really, really cool.
So when was the first time that you realised, wow, I'm getting, I could do this for a living, and you actually thought to yourself, This could be my life?
Well, that was always the goal, right? From about, I reckon 13 or 14 when I got my first sponsorship. Yeah. My older brothers that were, 4 and 8 years older than me. Mm-hmm. So they had already gone down that path a little bit. Yeah. They were good surfers and they were sponsored and stuff as well. So I aspired to want to be like that too.
Okay, so you were just, looking at them thinking, right, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, so the path was sort of cut out before me, and I could see that, if I was surfing good enough and going in these events and improving, that I'd get the perks of that too.
Wow. And you like running as well, don't you? When did you get into your running?
It was more through my own personal transformation, really, that I found running.
Go on, talk me through that. So that's good, because it's quite a segue going from.
There's a bit to fill in there. I got married and then had my first boy, Bobby, just before I was 30, and 2 years after that, or before Bobby was 2, my dad took his own life, and that put me in a pretty dark place.
Wow, that's your hero, right?
Yeah,
Dad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's tough. Take me back to that period of your life. I think it's super important that, because, wow, look, I sit opposite you now and I see a good, confident, positive individual. How do you get through moments like that?
It's the experience of it that's got me through it. I went through every emotion I could think of that it's just shaped me to who I am now. I've felt so frustrated. There's not one emotion that I haven't been through to the depths of to get through it. I know now that like the grief of that just shows how much I respected him and loved him, and he was my mate. Above all of being a father and a good. He was my mate. I liked just his presence and hanging out with him and his calmness, and I'd always respected him. So he left a big hole there, and that was a couple of years really. I just remember just feeling very stuck, just getting caught up in my emotions, just real not finding a way out of it, ruminating and going back to it of what I could have done to help him, and then found my own well-being at a pretty low point.
Were there signs up to it that he was struggling?
He worked his ass off his whole life, from when he was a kid, taking me surfing till he was still 60 years old, working 6 days a week, working his absolute ass off. Didn't quite get ahead financially, and I'm sure that played a massive toll on him. He was a lot more. He was a lot more. He was very different to me. He was quiet. He was humble, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm talk about emotions and everything I've been through, and I'm lucky I got that. But maybe it was his generation. Maybe it was his lack of self-awareness that didn't let him know that there was a way to deal with these things, to come out of these situations. They didn't talk about it in his generation at all. But it's that, and through his lifestyle, through his lifestyle, he does his work, and he didn't have, I only can say this now, right, because of what I've done in my life to make my life better. Yeah,
few experiences.
And what I've learned, right, through my own personal experience, and just the things he could have done. And that's why I think even now I reflect on, I'm like, I often go, I feel a bit guilty. Imagine if I told Dad about, imagine he knew a little bit about breath work. Imagine if he knew a bit about meditation. Went and did yoga to, stretch out his tired body. Just found something that gave him a little bit of progress to feel that little bit better.
That
little bit of release,
urge.
And he obviously couldn't see it. He was so loved, and for someone who was so loved and respected to not see it, not to see this big family and everyone that he worked with loved him. That was probably the hardest part of it, Like, he was in a very, very, very dark place.
And he left a big family behind. How much of a hole did that leave within the family? And how did you cope with it as a family? Because you're a big family, right?
You got a big family.
Right? 5 brothers.
Look, it's been, everyone's dealt with it very differently. Mm-hmm. But it's not the same as it was, not even close.
Oh, wow.
Initially we came together for that shock period of grief,
moment.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, it was everyone dealt with it in their own way, and sort of some separated themselves, some came closer together. There is 5 of us, and that's been probably one hard thing for me to learn to accept. Just that we didn't have that. I looked at my childhood. We never were rich. We never did crazy holidays, but we had the ocean. We had loving parents that did their best.
Yeah.
And
love, guidance, protection, all
these things
that you need. That's all you need.
Having $10 million would not have made a difference. Mm-hmm. It was this. I've always been so grateful for that. And this is. I know Dad wouldn't like it how it is now at all. But if it takes them to look after themselves and separate themselves from a little bit and go and do their own thing for them to be happy, then I'm proud of them as well. That they put themselves first to get through whatever they have to do to get through, something as terrible as our dad not being around anymore.
And how did you get through it?
When I went through those few years of confusion after Dad's passing, I got to a point, and only through taking action, that I actually started to feel a little bit better and feel that little bit of progress. Simply by going and doing a breathwork thing. I just felt I had a little bit of control over how I was feeling, and that just snowballed from there. I got interested. I did a Wim Hof course. I did that, and these little basic tools that I could bring into my everyday life that made me feel that little bit better. Mm-hmm. And then, I did a running challenge one winter because we get quieter, and then I changed my diet, took sugar out of my diet with my wife while she was doing a gym challenge. Right. And then I wasn't getting as sore, so I continued on with the running. And I just started to feel so much better with these little sort of things I'd be doing regularly. Mm-hmm. And I loved that. I just was more excited about the progress I was making, and I was soon enough I was running every single day, and then I was like getting better and feeling better, and with that change of diet and doing the breath work and the ice baths, I wasn't, I was clear-headed.
Clear-headed, that's the one, right?
Yeah.
You can almost process things a lot easier. You can understand things a lot quicker because, like you said, you're clear-headed through those actions. Yeah. You've been physically fitter, you're running. You've got a clarity of mind that is now, not fogged, shall we say.
That's it.
And it changes you, doesn't it?
Definitely changes you. It changes you. And I just, it was through that action, not just sitting there and thinking, getting out of my head and into life, just moving my body and connecting that way. And I kept running and feeling great, and I had a routine for once. I've been a surfer my whole life that's dictated by the ocean. Run a business that's also dictated by that. There's nothing super structured there, but all of a sudden I had this routine. And before I knew it, I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I do that every day. So and that came just by finding the time. Like, I'm a business owner, loving husband, got 2 small kids, and I didn't want to take time away from the things that mattered the most to me. So I just thought, well, the only way I can do this is get up and get it done. And just by having that little routine, I think that was a really important part of the process, to go and having some structure and giving myself time. Wasn't selfish, especially at 4 a.m, but it was actually the most selfless thing I could do, because when I'm operating at my best, I can be the best husband and be there for my bees and be present in those moments, and not be thinking about everything else. So it's what is the most important thing for me now too, is to look after myself, so that I can say who I'm going to be and do the things I want to be and be accountable to everything that I'm doing.
Be the best version of yourself. The progress, not perfection, right? You're progressing through, and structure, so important. When I joined the military, that structure in my life changed my life. Having structure gives you purpose, because it keeps you disciplined. Yep. You're getting up at these hours. That discipline turns into motivation, because you can see a psychological and a physical change. You're starting to feel better. You're starting to act, differently. Did you run barefoot? Come on, talk me through that. So you progress in your running, then you decide to take on this mammoth challenge in the running world. What did you do?
Well, I just said a goal to do a marathon. Right. And then I went again to Indonesia, and I get to surf a lot. I surfed this one wave called Desert Point, cut my foot really badly, and just couldn't put shoes on. Just had this big hole, couldn't put shoes on, but I still ran on the treadmills over there when I went back to the family after that surf, and then got home and went to put the shoes on again. Wasn't going to work, this big open wound. So I just ran the next 3 months every single day barefoot through winter.
Love that.
And I'm definitely not the guy to come to for, programs and preparation and all that. Take action, what I mean? And that's how I changed my life, just doing some breath work, and starting to move and feel it. So I'm slowly learning to put structure into all of this, and it's going to help me in the future. But I just did everything really raw, because I knew I could do it. I had so much self-belief that I was just like, I'm going to get up and run. No matter how sore I am, I'm going to prove to myself that I can do these, building that mental strength that I'd never had, all these physical things I was doing, what it was really just making me stronger internally. And I could feel that, I could feel that. And it didn't take long, to get that routine in place and to be moving my body and using that energy that I was storing up in my emotions was it has to go somewhere. And I was using it physically to
Let's go somewhere. I love that. That's pure action, right? Let's go somewhere.
Yeah.
And you certainly went somewhere. So I love the transition into barefoot running. It's because you had a gaping hole in your foot. Yep. You're like, that's too sore with trainers on. Let's just go without it. And that kept you running, right? Because if you would have
Yeah.
put trainers on, you would have had that excuse in your head of, oh no, I need to stop running because I can't run, because I can't put the trainer. You're like, no, listen, I need to find a way through action, right? If I love my running, it really, really helps with me. If I can't run with trainers on, I'm going to run without trainers on.
Yeah.
Do you find it as you found it throughout time as well? You had a better connection because were you more grounded to Mother Nature and
Definitely,
that
it felt more like a part of me that I'd
Yeah.
been doing for a long time. Just putting runners on because that's what you're supposed to do. But just always being barefoot, it's not pleasant, man. I do some barefoot bush runs and just run along the esplanade every morning. I'm in the water a lot, so my feet soak a lot, so it's uncomfortable. I got to push through that uncomfortability most days because my feet are quite soft, soaking in the water. So it is something that my feet should be really tough, but they're not. And so that challenge alone, like it's not. I'm not super comfortable with it now. It's still a challenge every day. It's still something I've got to get past mentally to get out there and run barefoot.
And do you think you do that because you need to find that pain? You need to find that you need that uncomfortable. I always say there's no growth in comfort. And I do a lot of things where I take myself outside of my comfort zone because I need to do it.
Yeah.
It's not a case of that I would necessarily want to do it, but I know that I need to do it because my body deals well with it. My body can process it, and also I feel like I've achieved something. Even if it's just getting through the pain, like you said, or just getting through that uncomfortable moment where you step outside of your comfort zone. I need that in my life in order to feel like I've done something. It's almost a sense of reward.
Yeah, definitely. Feel like you've earned the day for me. You know what I mean? I've done what I can to start the day right.
How did you get to, one day thinking, do you know what, I'm going to attempt the longest surf session in the world? What? How did that click? Was there a moment that you looked at something or you done something and you thought, do you know what, I'm going to give this a shot? Or did you just...
It was just that progress. Like I ended up doing that marathon, did it barefoot, no shoes, no food, no water and no supplements, just to fully test myself. I thought, I'm doing all this so easy, all my big runs, barefoot, plating into it. I just want to see what's possible. And then that word of what's possible is kind of a bit scary, right? Because I'm like, well, what's possible if I can run a marathon with no shoes and food and go do no program and do it? What can I do? So then I just thought I'm going to run further than a marathon. So I doubled it and did a trail run, did 80 Ks, and then ran 100 kilometers, and then ended up running 100 miles. And I did that all really raw, backpack on the back. My wifey worried about me, but just, really raw, leaving some backpacks for the possums to usually eat and not have any food along the way, and just doing these things because I just love the idea of the challenge and seeing what, without those barriers of self-worth and not being good enough or not thinking I'm going to make it, they were gone. It was only using the positive energy, and it just helped me grow. It's what I needed to do to find, to build that self-belief up in me. Then after that marathon, I came home I'll never forget this. And I came home the next day and I was sore as. First marathon, whatever, no food. I was cooked, especially because of the nutrition, right? And my goal was I'm going to run the next day. I know I'm meant to have rest, and rest is important, but I run the next day. And it was such a mental hurdle for me to run that next day, that next evening. I didn't want to go all day. I was procrastinating a little bit, which was only because I was so sore in particular day. And I went for like a 2K run. And that sounds like nothing, but I got back from that run and went into my wife and I said, I can fucking do anything. I can fucking run 100 Ks. I can do anything, Loz. I said that.
Commitment, isn't it?
And I to even say that gives me goosebumps now, because that's a part of what my message is that we are blocked by ourselves, right? And anyone, I'm a dad, I'm no one special. I just know that the labourer, the office worker, they can do amazing things. They've just got to find that self-belief, and it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Not one of the way that we're conditioned with work and expectations we have on ourselves. We're very limited, and I know that I'm proof of that where I've been in my life, through the grief of my dad, through not making it as a pro surfer, they're all to get me to where I am now, to be able to share this message, and I feel responsible to it. I think I want people to feel as good as I do. I want people to think that these goals, that think of goals they may have never thought of before, and challenge and make life fun and curious. And I think that's beautiful.
But also, what's fascinating, what you said about that 2K run, you said it sounds like nothing, but it's not about that distance, it's not about the length of the run, it's about that you've committed. You made the psychological decision through how you were feeling to commit to your emotions, right? Yeah. And it's the action thereafter. That could have been a 10K run. It could have been you were going to come back and feel. It could have been a 1K run. You were going to come back and feel invincible anyway because of what you've just done prior to it, right? Yeah. So that commitment phase, that's the hurdle, right? You get to that. Should I do it? Don't believe in myself. Don't think I can do it. Don't think my body is. And it's just like, no, commit. Just get out and run. Yeah. Get out and do stuff. Action it. Action what your what your emotions and then what your mind triggers. But it's super important because once you commit, it's never actually that bad, is it, Blakey?
No.
Like you said, when you got out and you were sore and that's why I come back to this moment because it's such a powerful moment for me, and that gave you obviously that self belief to then go on and do to do great stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What makes you decide to attempt the longest surf session the world has ever seen?
Well, let's call it a little bit of arrogance, right? Feeling so good and feeling like I'm setting these challenges and achieving these challenges as raw and as they're not breaking time records or anything, but I'm breaking personal records nearly every time. Breaking through barriers and building that resilience that I need to help me get through and make live my best life day to day.
Yep.
And I did the 100-mile run through the national park. Absolutely cooked my Achilles. Mm-hmm. Took me 40 hours. And then a few months after recovery, I went down to the wave pool in Melbourne. They opened the new wave simulator down there. We got to go off a corporate day. And by the third hour, all the corporates were getting out of the water. There was only a couple either side, so on both of the breaks. And I went in and I said, can I stay out? And yeah. So I stayed out for 7 hours straight and rode 100 waves. And epic day. I was stoked to be down there.
Yeah.
And just Googled on the way home on the plane, what's the world's longest surf? And it was 30 hours and 7 minutes, held by a South African guy, Josh Enslin. Mm. And I just went, 30 hours, I could do 40 hours. If I can run for 40 injured, I could surf for 40, no worries. How many waves did he ride? 436 waves. I could do 500 waves. I could do that in my own natural environment, being in the ocean, bring in the local community and my friends and get the support. And it's coming up for 10 years for my dad's passing. So let's do it for mental health. And I went mental health because I've got my own boys. I work with thousands of kids and I take my responsibility as a coach and a mentor. I hold that seriously. I take that seriously because we can have an influence on them by the way we live.
We do. 1,000,000%.
Yeah,
we do.
And it was just making something pain to purpose. Feeling the worst thing that's ever happened to me. All of a sudden, something that I believed in, and a personal challenge for me was turning into something that I wanted to, something bigger than me, mm-hmm. To also share that message that we're more valuable than we think we are, and that transpired throughout the event and the way that it unfolded from when I said, I'm going to go for the world record.
How hard were those 40 hours? How mentally, psychologically, physically, emotionally draining was it? And what did you use to get you through it?
It was about accepting every moment for what it was. We're dealing with the ocean. It's always it's constantly changing, like life is too, right? It was accepting of everything that came across my way. This particular event in particular, I focused on the outcome. I focused on believing that I'd never had as much self-belief through that process, through anything I'd ever done. Obviously, through my challenges that I'd set myself, and life challenges like with my dad. I've been through quite a bit, and into this event, I visualized and believed that I was doing it for the right reasons, and I actually manifested the moments beforehand. I was running past the alley every day, imagining this huge crowd that was there, mm-hmm. and sort of going, oh, whatever, but starting off just, imagine this huge crowd's there, I really feel it. But then ended up running past, stopping, breathing in, feeling in the moments and visualizing this moment actually happening, feeling it, not just thinking this thing's going to happen. So everything that I was doing leading to that event, every surf I'd go for, every time I was down the beach, the intention for everything was towards this goal. So I was, I was thinking
being connected with the moment.
Being connected with the moment.
Yeah.
So I got to this one part in particular of the surf where it was the hardest. My eyes were just on fire. I had to close them most of the surf because the lights were brighter than I thought they were going to be, because the surf was bigger than I thought it was going to be for the first 10 hours.
Really?
So it's a beautiful day. So the sunrise came up and my eyes were already cooked on the first day. And, I was riding a wave. No one really – I surfed every wave with intention. I surfed it as a surf. I didn't flick off to get numbers.
Yeah.
If the wave had a section for a turn, I was going to surf the wave properly. I wore one wetsuit. I rode one board just to do it authentic and do it. And when I hit the water, I was full of self-belief, so much full of self-belief that I wasn't really listening to there was a doctor on the beach going, slow down, don't ride the waves into the short break, you're using too much energy, you've still got 35 hours to go.
Yeah.
No matter what I was accepting whatever I was going to go through was going to be in front of me, and I would get through it. So, yeah, it was a lot harder from earlier on. From the first morning was just, the surf was bigger. I did 500 duck dives. When you go into the wave, I did about, between 350 and 400 duck dives going through. I'd rode 220 waves by the time the sun came up. So Hurt Town came in really early. That was like,
people don't appreciate that. You're being on the water and, keeping yourself in that area, keeping yourself, safe so you're not. That's a challenge in itself,
was 6
right?
foot,
Yeah,
100% positioning, and ideally a world record. It's small and it's clean, and it's your mates are out there with you for support, or they're there for water safety. But this was big surf. Like, the beaches would have been closed, and no easy places to get out. So my friends would come out and they'd just get smashed around and go in. So I was working really, really hard. So I'm proud of that. I did it. Didn't hand it to me. The ocean didn't hand it to me. I had to really work for those waves and those times that I got in, and the fact that I surfed every wave and every section I could was something that, I'm proud of as a surfer too.
You feel like you completed.
I wasn't just doing a world record. I was doing it properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Surfing challenging waves, doing it the numbers.
It sounds like the world record was almost out of your head, because if you wanted to go for the world record, you'd hit the wave, come off. Go back.
Exactly. Do it in Waikiki in 35-degree water. But this was about, proving to the people that everything had built up around the event. There was 150 people there at 1 a.m. in the morning when I was paddling out, So I have a responsibility, like I always feel, to be accountable to my word and do it properly. And I know a lot of kids were there watching, and it was getting broadcasted, globally. So it
was a huge event.
Yeah, it was an opportunity to show, that do what you say you're going to do. Be accountable to your word, and you can do the things that you set out to do.
And the salt water, I don't think people appreciate salt water and the damage, the erosive damage it does to your eyesight, to your wetsuit, to the rubs, to the sores. How bad is it to be exposed to salt water for that long, and what did it do to your vision and to your body?
Yeah, the eyes were by 5 hours in of the 40 hours, I was closing my eyes on the paddle outs, just open enough so I could see the waves and let my, experience, intuition guide me a little bit. But I had some surfers at some points, especially sunrise, straight into the face, just tell me when the big waves weren't coming, so I could paddle faster then and help me out through the lineup to get me through there. Mm-hmm. And then as the surf went on, it just, it didn't obviously get any better. Mm-hmm. I had a sore neck, hinged neck from being on the board, that pinched nerve in the back. My shoulders were just, the whole body ached, everything from the seams on the wetsuits to just, you became one huge numb thing. It was embedded in pain. If I couldn't focus on any one area because everything was really hurting. Swollen, wrinkly hands, so wrinkly, it felt like I could have flicked my hands and they would have stuck on the skin would have come off my wall, just so soft, and the heartburn from all the food and the drinking that I did. So it was like just the most food I've ever eaten in 40 hours, and the electrolytes and everything. My tongue was swollen, like the throat was burning. There wasn't a part of me that didn't really hurt. The fingernails, everything just totally hurt. But I was so in the moment. I was so present and so accepting of everything that happened that I got to a point through the surf where I was in the most perfect mental state. Like anything negative would come in. And one thought in particular, which I did mention before, is when I was on the beach at 1 a.m. that morning, about to do the hardest thing I've ever done, I actually hadn't slept for the 40 hours before that. I had just then, going into the event, all the anticipation around what's he doing it for? Why is this guy on surfing? I wanted to get the message through that it was about mental health. It was about making a difference, you know. And then it got 2 days out and I felt at ease. I'm like, there's no more interviews. I can focus on my equipment, my boards, what are the waves doing? And it was really good energy. It wasn't super hyper-focused running around. It was more like, okay, I'm about to go surfing. This is going to be fun. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to have the crowd there. It's build momentum. This is going all in the right direction. And I just fiddled around, got the boards ready and went to work in the morning, and I just didn't end up sleeping. So when I got there, I was 40 hours deep. So that was a thought that came in every now and then. But when I got further into the pain cave, it didn't matter. Nothing really mattered. I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be, and I kept saying that to myself. And it was like the bad thoughts would come in, and they would just be a thought, and I could just focus on my breathing, doing my nose breathing, help create that energy on the way back out, slowly paddling out, and I just trusted the process. I knew that when I opened my eyes that wave was going to come from that angle, and I'd do 3 turns and finish, and then focus on my breathing and come out. So I was in this total flow state for hours and hours.
Fully self-aware, right?
Completely connected with the energy on the beach, the thousands of people there for the world record. And then I felt crap when everyone went home and the surf got bad before the end of the day when it was nearly to be 40 hours and everyone came back. Friday afternoon at Cronulla, it was just packed. Yeah. And I don't remember a lot of the event. I never remembered a lot of the event until after, when I looked at the footage and I had conversations and I saw the photos and I pieced everything back together, because I was so in that moment, in that time, that I trusted. I knew it's like I'd been there before, that I was completely just in this state of acceptance and focusing on the positive and what I could control within me, and that it was all going to work out exactly how it was meant to work out.
Do you ever use your father during that time when you was in the water to get through? Did he ever? Of course, he probably popped up in your head, but were there ever moments where, you know, you used him where it was tough, and you used him to get you through that world record attempt?
I actually didn't through the hard times, because I've learned it comes down to me. You know, to get through the hard times, it is you who takes that first step. It is you who takes that first paddle, stroke, breath, anything to move forward in a positive direction and make progress. But with Dad, some crazy different things happen, like some weird spiritual things happen. Like I rode my 500th wave at 5 o'clock.
Wow.
I rode my 707th wave with my boy Bobby. So it was like someone was sending me these waves, you know, at the right times that came through. And there was moments there of connection where I felt like this is the same place where Dad took me surfing, my first memory, you know. First memory was at this break with my dad by my side, you know. But I've got the strength to be here now, and it's a really proud moment of mine to know that, you know, what he went through, and
he was present there on the day.
Yeah,
right?
man.
It was
definitely.
Like
he was there.
It's not coincidence.
You know, I knew it was about me and my ability to get through without reflecting on anyone else's power and energy, and that we all have the ability to do that, and it comes down to you. Mm-hmm. And you got to develop the self-belief that doesn't fall on your lap, you know. We're all capable of it, you know, and it's something that I believe we can all be better versions of ourselves. And when you have little goals or big goals, you know, you don't have to be running 100 miles or breaking world records. You know, everyone's level of hard's different. You just got to be committed to the process, and when you see that progress, that's when you know you develop that self-worth.
That's what I say to people. You know, in order, the self-belief is a gift that you can only gift yourself. You know, someone can say, you know, when you grow up and your parents say, and people say, oh, I believe in you, but if you don't believe in yourself, they're just empty words. It goes over your head. And I say to people, you know, it's through, and you mentioned it, and we sort of come around the same solution. You mentioned it, it's action, right? When I say when you commit, don't get carried away with the destination. Just commit. Get into that moment. Get into that new space, because whether you succeed or fail at what you set out to do, in that new space, you're going to learn something new, no matter what. You're going to grow from it, and you're going to become a better version of yourself just through those small commitments. And then you commit again, and then you start to realise what you're capable of. Well, I didn't realise I was capable of this. And then when you start to realise what you're capable of, self-belief kicks in the back end, right? And then when you can install that self-belief, which you can only do by yourself, that's when you finish a run, you go, I can do anything. or you go, right, I might not achieve what I set out to do, but I'm not fazed by it because I believe in myself, and I just commit to the first wave, commit to the second part, commit to the whatever it may be. And I always say, you must commit in order to realise what you're capable of. And then once you realise what you're capable of, self-belief kicks in. How powerful is that tool of self-belief, Blakey?
It's the most important thing we can have, develop that self-belief, that self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Self-worth.
that's exactly what mental health is, right? Finding that self-worth. For me, it's being proud of yourself, knowing that you're worthy. And as hard as life gets it sometimes, that we can work at it, and we all deserve to feel awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you owe it to yourself to do that.
How proud were you when you finished? Talk me through that last sort of talk me through the last wave. Where do you know it's your last wave?
No, I was smashed. I didn't know what was going on at the time. There was like all these people on the beach. Like I was asking the lifeguards because they were in the water for safety.
Yeah.
Are these here for me? And like, yeah, mate. Like they're my friends. They're like, yeah, mate. It's the 10th time you asked us. It's So I was a little bit cooked, but I was
a little bit cooked.
Yeah, I was a little bit cooked, but I was.
That's
what carried me through the community, the people, the fact that people got around me. It's such a beautiful thing, Like
the energy must have been insane.
The energy was amazing. Just everyone. There's photos. You can't pick a smile off. People saying they had the best afternoon they've ever had down there because of the energy of the community. There for supporting a cause and just coming together and show. And it just proved that every single one of them was an important part to me getting to my goal.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing experience for Cronulla to come together as a community and have that and show that they're all valuable parts of
yeah, they all serve a purpose. We all have this energy that we can give. We all have a purpose. A community, sense of community, a sense of belonging. How important is that? It's super important that we actually need each other. When you look at, you look at yourself, everything starts with you, but ultimately then the growth, the expansion is through other people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I've seen that multiple times with my transformation into running and doing these adventures and seeking my own progress. Is Blake okay? Is he all right? He's lost it. I'm like, nah, I found it, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I found it. 100% I found it. It's almost like a compliment if someone says it to me now.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah,
you're doing something for yourself. You're improving it. And, after that, like people will go, oh, can I come for that run with you over in the national park? And we've developed a little community of people who are on a WhatsApp message and they're on their own little groups going surfing together early in the morning, or they're doing a national park hike, or they're going on a surf trip overseas, or going down to the snow. Like that, it's just what you can see. It's conspiring. It's not all it's because of them taking action, right? So starts with you as well. You can have an impact bigger than you think, right? Way bigger than you think, just by seeking progress and
becoming a better version of yourself.
Becoming a better version of yourself.
Exactly. But and then commitment by commitment. I say, percentage by percentage.
Yeah.
0 to 100% doesn't exist. And perfection doesn't exist. It's progression. To change that P from perfection to progression.
Yeah.
And as long as you're progressing in life, you're changing, you're growing, you're evolving, you're becoming a better version of yourself.
It's fun.
It's cool,
fun.
right?
It's curious.
It almost gives you your purpose.
Yeah.
That's what gives me my purpose in life. That's why I go out and I climb. I like to climb and the highest mountains in the world. I have scaled up to that, but I'm committing. I'm not worried about, believe it or not, I'm not worried about the summit. Do you know what I mean? I'm worried about the next camp. I'm worried about the next section of this climb. I break it down to these small commitments, and with every commitment that I make, I gain more confidence. I realise what I'm capable of. I gain more self-belief. I can achieve this.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you've done so many series of commitments that you've smashed the goal.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done, right? You smashed the world record by what? 10 hours?
Yeah, 10 hours. Yeah, 10 hours.
So again, you didn't even get to like 31 hours ago. It's like, do you know what? I'm just going to keep going and going and going and going. God, that is some going, mate.
I think it's important to mention that it's not about the big moments. We've talked about the world record. You've spoken about my big runs and being a pro surfer and getting paid and all that kind of stuff. But it's the day to day. You're saying about these little steps towards the summit, but it's like it's the day that matters.
Yeah.
How I show up. How I'm operating each day to day that leads me to these things. Mm-hmm. Not just thinking about these things and aiming for that goal. And that's And that's the best part, right? If you're good at each day to day, and that's where you have the influence on the people close to you that you care about the most. So you're showing up as the best Blakey, for my wife and for the boys. And
you can give the best version of yourself to your wife, to your family, to your work colleagues, to your community.
That's what's important,
and that's all you can leave
spend
behind.
all your time with.
That's all you can leave behind, ultimately, isn't it? There's the best version of you.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can gain some inspiration from that. They can gain a bit of your mindset. They can gain a bit of your, your emotional intelligence, so they can use it internally. I think that's hugely important, because the external is great, for you to go out and use to your advantage.
Yeah.
But it's internally what really, really matters, and what you can pass on.
Yeah.
And what's next for Blakey Johnston?
Yeah, I've got a few. I want to do my next big run. I'm planning to run out next year. I'm going to run barefoot 220 Ks along the coast. And I'm going to do that for mental health as well. Try and get, the kids out to run with me as I pass different beaches, and make it about community and show them there are people there for them along the way. I think that was looking really forward to doing that. And then just running camps and clinics through my business that offer these experiences, that people get to come down the south coast and learn some practical tools like breath work and ice baths and being out in nature in the ocean, doing some bushwalks, and just that whole holistic approach to it, not just saying one thing's going to fix you and make you feel better, but life's there, just go and grab it, go out and expose yourself to it, know that you're worthy of it, and let's have some fun.
I'm going to come and join you, and I mean that, for some breath work and for some cold water treatment.
What about surf? What about a surf?
Yeah, listen, I've never surfed, so
let's go.
Let's
go.
You know what?
Signed yourself up then.
But I'm, like you, more attracted to the mountains, but I love the water. I've always been in and out of the water. So listen, I'm definitely going to come down and visit for sure. So, and I'm a man of my word. And I'm looking forward to it now. So listen, I'm going to be one of your clients. So, and then in return, I'll have you on SAS.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. You didn't seem so sure then.
Nah, man, I'm 100% sure. Nah.
No, mate, listen, you've been an absolute honour to have loads of energy walking in, lots of inspiration, very, very like-minded mindset like myself. And what I love about it is, like, once you realise what you're capable of, once you realise, the progression that we can make as individuals, self-belief kicks in the back end, become a better version of yourself. That's my purpose in life. I know it's yours. And if you can pass that on as an individual to loved one, to work colleagues, and I believe that you're doing your job. Yeah. Blakey, thanks for coming on, mate.
Cheers, Ant.
Absolute pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Blakey Johnston is a surf coach, mental health advocate, and world record holder. Thanks so much for joining me on Head Game. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our incredible stories. And leave me a review wherever you're listening. I'm Matt Middleton. Catch you again next time.